Hi, hello guys. And it's been a while, but allow me not to get there. Today we're gonna do a power factor. Actually, a friend sent this problem. It's not a tough problems. It's not a tough problems, but it's gonna give us an opportunity to go through a variety of things. And I think I will suggest that most of the time you listen because I'm only gonna write when I'm treating this problem. And then he said the chapter of this is actually a power factor improvement. If you have, say for instance, this sketch, for instance, and you got a voltage there with an angle of lag here, the component in phase with the voltage, we call it I cos of phi, and it is called the active component of current. The active component of current here, as you will know already, it's a fact, it's a general knowledge, it is 90 degrees. Why? It is opposite to a line called the Pythagoras theorem. This is a right angle triangle. Okay, sorry about that. This vertical component, which is 90 degrees out of phase with the voltage, we call it I sine of phi, and we call it the reactive component of current. This is an angle of lag. So this, obviously, it will be the load current. This load current on this sketch, as you will see, it is divided into two perpendicular components. And we already mentioned that this one is an active component of current, or wattful. This one is a reactive or wattless component of current. Now, this is very important. If you multiply all sides of this triangle by V, for instance, by V, you now start to get what is so called a power triangle. A power triangle. Before you multiply, the power factor is the cosine of this angle, and it is found between what? It is found between voltage and current. If you multiply, this becomes power, this becomes apparent power. It means power factor can also be expressed in the form of power, and it is the cosine between the active power and the apparent power. This is apparent power, and it is measured in VA or kilovolt amps if we deal with bigger numbers. And then, yeah, actually that's the point. That's what is meant by the power factor. It is the angle between voltage and current, or it is the ratio of this active power or true power to apparent power. And then the smaller this angle becomes, the power factor becomes more, because the cause of that small angle, it will become bigger. But this reactive component, this reactive component, it is actually a measure of a power factor. What does that mean? If the reactive component is large, if it becomes large, say for instance this thing is here, the reactive component becomes large, this angle will become larger, and the cause of that larger angle will give you a small value, and that small value is called a power factor. And vice versa, if this reactive component becomes smaller here, it becomes smaller from there to there, it becomes smaller, this angle will also become smaller, and the cause of that smaller angles will give you a high power factor. That's basically what it means by a power factor. Now, when a power factor is small, let's say for instance in this problem, they say a power factor is 0.6 lagging. Generally speaking, as artisans, junior engineers and engineers, and so we know the power factor should generally be close to unity, so to speak. It should be close to 1. And then by close to 1, I mean say maybe 0.8, 0.9. It can't be more than 1. Power factor at 1. It's unity. And then if it becomes less than that, it has to be improved. And we used what is so-called power factor correction equipment. Say, for instance, static capacitors, synchronous motors, and phase advancers. For my side, really, I've never seen phase advancers, but where I used to work, I've seen synchronous motors, driving mills, I've seen static capacitors, and so on. And to improve that power factor, normally the static capacitors, in the case of capacitors in this case, the capacitors are actually connected in parallel with the load, such that they neutralize this reactive component of current. This active component, before and after power factor corrections, it will remain the same. Only this one, after power factor correction, will change. If it was here, meaning it's now gonna be there. It will become smaller because the capacitor will only consume this reactive component, which is useless. Actually, it does nothing. It just causes an unwanted heat in the power system. All right. Now, based on this information, remember, this should be normally a continuous practice, field problems and stuff. And then this power factor, the small power factor, a power factor normally shouldn't be less. It causes an increase in losses in all the elements of the power system, and it causes consumers, us or in high industrial plant, to pay more. So we have to improve it so that the per unit cost of production of electrical energy should be more or less smaller, so to speak. Right. Now let's check this problem. And then the reason why a power factor becomes smaller is largely due to the fact that in an industrial field, most induction motors or equipment are inductive in nature and takes a low lagging power factor. Arc lamps, electric discharge lamps, industrial heating furnaces, they all take a low lagging power factor. One other thing for us, me and you who lives, I'm renting here, and you will find that the power or the load, which is the power, it becomes more. I use more power here on my multimeter. I use more power in the morning and evening. Why morning? People are preparing to go to work, so they light geysers, they use stove to make lunches, they may use micro oven maybe to heat up something, they light geysers so that while they are washing it's hot inside and so on. TVs also maybe to update yourself with news before you go to work. So the power in the morning is more. In the evening as well, people are from work, they make tea, they are watching TV, generations and stuff. And then it's low during the day because people have closed their houses, they are at work, so they are saving as a result. So that increases during low load period. The magnetization current increases, and that results into a low power factor. Those are the causes of a low power factor. So the power factor has to be more. Why? Before I treat this problem, let me show you why. You see why I said it's important that you listen to me more than looking as to what I'm writing, because I wanted to tell you this information. Go watch this video, guys. Subscribe, share it with your friends. let's make this video the festival of ideas, man. Send problems. I will make sure someday that you have my number so that you can even contact me personally. We solve problems. These are field problems. The guy was struggling with this problem at the field, not at school, at the field, at work, so to speak. Yeah, so the disadvantages of a low power factor is equal to what? Well, I can't write them, but look, you've got power is equal to root 3 V line I line cos of phi. If we make the line current subject of the formula, look, it will be I line is equal to power over root 3 V line I line, okay, cos of phi. Why? We have made I line subject of the formula. From here, you can see the load current is inversely proportional. It's inversely proportional to the power factor. What does that mean? At a low power factor, the current becomes more. That's why the power factor shouldn't be low. It shouldn't be low. Why? Because at a low power factor, the current becomes more. What happens when there is more current? The plant suffers. The engineer will have to order what? A big conductor, a copper, a drum of a 16 millimeter square is 300,000 rand. That drum of a 16 millimeter square conductor, imagine of a 0.1 or a 95 millimeter square cable, the big one, it's roughly 1 million. That's why the power factor has to be more, such that when it is more, the current is less. If the current is less, at least you're gonna order a sizable amount of conductor, and you are saving as such. Remember, nowadays in the industrial revolution, you are requested to save cost. Otherwise, you are used. Since that engineer arrived, I'm struggling. Equipment here are not operating properly. I'm always spending whenever. So you start spending on the conductor when the current is large. You can also look as well. Look, root 3 V line I line. This thing, we call it the rating of an equipment, S, which is apparent power. What does that mean? Power is equal to S cos of phi. Let's make S subject of the formula as well. S is equal to P over cos of phi. The power factor is inversely proportional to the rating of the equipment. This is apparent power in kVA, the kilovolt amps rating of equipment. At a low power factor, this rating becomes large. And what does that mean? It will make the equipment more large and expensive. That's why you have to make sure that this factor here, this power factor, is close to unity. Very, 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 very important. The other thing, as you like to know, when the current is large, let's say for instance I squared Z. This is the I squared R losses. The I squared R losses. This is are the losses. When the I squared R losses, at the receiving end there, the voltage becomes more smaller than the supply voltage, and that will result in the efficiency, because the machinery sometimes will start and then it stop and then until it bends. One other thing, the voltage regulation. You remember, the voltage regulation has to be smaller so that the load current should be properly regulated. if you recall during your early days at universities, that was actually the purpose of why the voltage regulation should be smaller. If it becomes bigger, it impairs, it also disadvantages the performance of the power system. Those are the disadvantages in passing or just in brief. But now let's go to my brother's, Mr. Straker's problem here. He said an alternator is supplying a 300 kilowatt at a power factor of 0.6 lagging. It's something like this. There is our power triangle. It has an angle of lag. What is an angle of lag there? An angle of lag, it is the arc cos of 0.6, and it is equal to what? The arc cos of 0.6, and it is equal to 53.13 53.13 degrees. This one, power is equal to 300 kilowatts. It's given. And then this side, it is the reactive component. Normally the reactive component, tan is opposite over adjacent. Is power multiplied by tan of phi. And then remember, the output power is equal to S cos of phi. You know this problem from SA. And then S, which is this one, is equal to what? 300 divided by 0.6 is equal to what? 300 divided by 0.6. 300 divided by 0.6. It's 500. It's kVA. Why kVA? We didn't it's kilowatts. We didn't convert it to watts. So it's kVA. Now, you are told that for the same kVA rating at unity power factor. Look, even if you don't go there, at unity power factor, this is the case. At unity power factor, power is equal to S is equal to 500 kilowatts. For the same rating, it means this 500 kVA rating at unity power factor is the same rating when the alternator operates at 0.6. Alright, so we've got this. Or let's calculate it, which is equals to power is equals to what? Is equals to 500 same rating multiplied by unity power factor. Power is equals to S cos theta, which is 500 multiplied by 1 at unity power factor, and it is equals to 500 kilowatts. Now, how many more kilowatt can the alternator supply for the same? It will be more kilowatts. More is kilowatts. Oh, how many more kilowatts? Yes, how many more kilowatts is equal to what? It will be equal to this 500, which is calculated, minus the initial 300 when the power factor was 0.6, and it is equal to 200 kilowatts. That's basically the answer, man. That's basically the answer. It's just that someone, I'm telling you now, Mr. Straker struggled with the phrase for the same kVA loading. But we get it's a very, very easy problem. It's a very, very easy problem. But thanks for bringing it. At least we have helped others as well. But look what happened when the power factor was 0.6. The alternator can only produce 300 kilowatts. for the same kVA loading, the other power, the 200 kilowatt went up in smoke. It's a loss. It's a loss. But look what happened when the power factor is raised to unity. When the alternator is 500 kVA, it also produces, when the alternator is 500 kVA, it also produces 500 kilowatt. Only when the power factor is unity, when it is raised from 0.6, there was a loss of 200 kilowatt. But now it has been improved to unity, and the apparent power is 500 kVA. And now it develops 500 kilowatts. Very, 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 very important. I don't know whether it's 20 minutes, Mr. Akhisanang. I don't know whether you're going to allow me to take his problem again. Another one. Or should I reserve it for another video? Or can I take it? No. Oh, no. Let me leave it. Look, guys. Actually, this guy is a person. He's a new S4 student. He struggled with power factor. I'm gonna help him. He's just starting. Please, I told him that I'm gonna help him, but by making videos for others also to see. Please subscribe. Tell me what problems maybe you think we should do as well. I've seen someone said we must also help him with 3 problems. I think it's boilers, but it's thermodynamics actually, but we'll talk about that. For now, Mr. Akhisanang, you can stop it. I'm gonna see you in the next video.